do this. So the first thing is that I will be telling you 10 benefits of reading out loud. 10 benefits. I guess these are enough for you to be like convinced that reading out loud is important. First reason is that we do have some facial muscles. So what I'm trying to say is that when we speak the language, our first language, you don't feel tired when you're talking. I'm not talking about your heartbeats. No, I'm talking about your facial muscles. Have you ever felt tired, like your face is hurt somehow when you're talking in Arabic? It rarely happens or it never happens. So the things that your facial muscles are so familiar with your Arabic language and the Arabic sound units. So your lips and teeth and tongue and your, all this part is it knows f, qaf, kaf, lam. It knows the sound units of Arabic, and it doesn't exert too much effort to say Arabic words. On the other hand, you're trying to acquire the English language, you're trying to learn the English language and to master the speaking skill. So you need to understand that what is making speaking difficult for a non-native speaker is that the facial muscles aren't really familiar or aren't getting exposed to the English sound units enough, the English language sound units enough. So that's why your facial muscles might feel a little bit, it's hard for me to pronounce. Some people say it in other words, like, I feel my tongue is tied up. Something is grabbing my tongue backwards. I don't feel my tongue is freely moving in English as I'm doing in Arabic. It goes different in Arabic. It goes differently in Arabic. So first thing, you need to get your facial muscles, which is around 42 muscles. You need to get them exposed to a lot of exercises a lot of exercises based on the English sound units, like read this more, pronounce the sounds more. Especially we need this, especially after you study the phonetics. When we started the course, inshallah, our first classes, we will be studying vowel sounds, problematic consonants, consonant clusters. So you need to practice these sound units more by reading out loud. So first thing, your muscles and your upper and lower jaw, how the teeth is moving, how the teeth, upper and lower teeth are moving, your tongue, your tongue movement and the airflow, all of this needs to be like easy for you when you do it more. So first thing, you're training your facial muscles. Second point, help the brain do both, speak and think. So what I'm trying to say is that it is quite weird, but I know this as a teacher. Some people, when I ask them a question, they start answering the questions, but then they start talking about irrelevant things. Like, for example, I ask them, how do you choose your friends? So they start, well, I choose my friends based on situations, or the way I choose my friends is based on situations. And so they lose the train of thoughts. They don't have connected ideas. They barely develop the main single idea. This is because those people can't do both. They can't think and speak at the same time. Some other people and some other students tell me, Isra, we never like to talk without preparation. We like to write everything down first, and then we can talk. It seems like it's quite overwhelming for them to do both tasks at the same time, to think, produce on the mind, produce the language on the mind, and then say it. So that's mainly because the brain isn't really ready for doing this and this at the same time. Reading is a similar practice. And when you read, you don't really do any kind of language production because you know the content is in between your hands. I mean, you have the book, the novel, or the even the e-reader or the PDF file on your mobile phone or your tablet. So you don't do much production, even though you still need to understand what you're reading, right? So you speak while you are trying to digest and comprehend the content itself. Okay. So in that case, you're trying to get the brain ready for doing two tasks at the same time so that you can be, you know, by practice, you can be ready for language instant production to produce the language and talk freely. Third thing is that language errors defossilization. I know that the term defossilization can be a very long term and we might be looking this up. I know you will stop the session and look this up. You don't have to. It is so much technical, and I know, you know, if I have any language teachers, you might be familiar with the language fossilization. When I'm saying language error fossilization is that sometimes I ask somebody, what do you do for a living? What's your job? So they say, or he says, I am a teacher. I have been work as a teacher for 5 years. I have been work. There is a mistake here. If I spotted this person, I said, I'm sorry, I've been working. He must say, oh, I'm sorry, I've been working. So this person is able to correct his mistakes, even though he is still making these mistakes while he's talking. So why? When we're talking, we don't have much time to review what we're saying and to like summarize what we're saying before saying this and correct ourselves. We don't have the luxury of time. We have the ideas here, we say them there. That's why we don't have those kinds or those sorts of filtration, language filtration. So what I'm trying to say is that when you read a passage, when you read a novel, a page, mainly in English, out loud, okay, not silently, you are trying to get your brain exposed to the correct form of the language. You are telling your brain it's called I have been working because you read this million times. When you say it, you will say the correct structure, even though you mistakenly said I have been work. Because you read this a lot and because you heard yourself saying this a lot, your brain will be attentive to the mistake and your brain will correct you on the spot. Then you can do it. I'm sorry, I've been working. Okay. So that's the language errors defossilization. When we get rid of the mistakes and the language errors, especially those that we make while we're talking. Okay. Fourth benefit, gain confidence. I like to tell this to my students. You need to love yourself when you talk in English. And I'm not saying love, you know, I don't mean to adore yourself or to fall in love with with yourself. I'm not trying to make you guys narcissists. But what I'm trying to say is that I just want you to know that I can speak the language. I feel okay. Maybe I don't feel confident, but I am okay. When you want to reach this point, it could be a dream, it could be a goal for a language speaker, because whenever he is encountered by a situation, he's forced to speak in English, he feels overwhelmed, he feels not ready for it, he feels I just want to escape. I want to escape. I want to move. I want to go away. So shying away from using the language is nothing but inconfidence. So when you talk and when you read out loud a lot, okay, and keep this practice for, you know, the daily habit or make it a daily habit, this will make you see yourself as a language user. I am able to talk continuously without any kind of interruption. I might depend on my brain to produce the language, not only the book. So it will, of course, reinforce your confidence and it will make you think of yourself as a better language user. And your self perspective is so much important, by the way. 5, improve your vocabulary. That's the good old cliche benefit of reading out loud. All people, of reading in general. So people love reading, of course, because they do learn words. But there is something I need to warn you guys here. It might be a problem maybe later on, or it might be like something that is not really cool. When we are reading out loud, or when we're reading and there is a difficult word I don't understand, I stop, I look up the word, I feel bored, I leave the book. I don't do this anymore. I know this scenario, and I'll be talking about this later on in today's class, in today's session. But I'm just trying to like let you know, in case it popped up in your mind and you started thinking about this, if it came across your mind, I know what you're thinking, and I will be talking about this. But let me talk to you about the vocabulary. Of course, reading is a great, outstanding way of learning vocabulary, because I don't want to be too, I don't want to tell a lot of details about the philosophies of learning, but learning vocabularies from lists, it doesn't work. And I'm pretty sure that we've all learned, or maybe we've all tried learning words in lists, like maybe trying to translate them in Arabic. This doesn't work. They will never come up to your mind when we speak. Okay. So you will learn a lot of vocabulary, not only, common vocabulary, actually you will learn advanced ones, vocabulary or items of vocabulary that you can depend on for, academic tests like IELTS, TOEFL. So the style of reading, or maybe the reading, makes you learn very prestigious and less common items of vocabulary or lexical resources. Remember longer. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not a neuroscientist. Like I haven't studied how the brain works and how the brain perceives things. I haven't studied this, but I have read a lot of researches and a lot of statistics about the different memories we have as a human being. We do have two kinds of memories, the short-term memory and the long-term memory. The short-term memory is when I listen to a new word. I'm just listening to an audio for the sake of learning. I just want to learn something. And I heard a new word like infallible, for example. And I learned this word, I heard it. Okay. So now it's in my short-term memory, which means I knew it, but for maybe a couple of hours. Maybe by the end of the day, I will never remember this word. Maybe if I try to tell someone that I learned a word yesterday, I wouldn't be able to recall the word. I forgot the word simply. And this happens. That's why students tell me, we learn a lot of words, but we never use them. They don't even come to our minds when we're talking. Of course, they will never do this because you aren't doing this, you aren't doing the learning vocabulary the right way. So when you listen, it's in the short-term memory. But when you see the item of vocabulary, when you see